here we are. I'm Tom Osman, and this is Whatever Comes Next, the podcast where I explore the world of underground and independent music making. And on today's episode, I am talking with Oraklet of black metal project Häxkapell. And Häxkapell has just put out its second album. I'm going to do my best not to butcher this, but I will butcher it. Jordens, blod, och urgravens, grepp, which translates as of earth's blood and grave's blast. But at the beginning of the interview, you can hear Oraklet actually pronounce all of this correctly as it should be pronounced in Swedish. This is just my best approximation. It's the best I can do, and I'm very happy that I've got it out of the way, and now I don't have to stress about trying to pronounce these unfamiliar words again. Anyway, all of that rambling aside, this is, it's not that difficult to say on the 13th of January. This is my favorite album so far this year. And I think there's a strong possibility that this will remain one of my favorite albums by the end of the year. I'm not the biggest authority on black metal, but in fact, as Oraklet says himself in this interview, he doesn't consider this music to be purely black metal. The track that I've taken to play at the end of this interview, which I'm going to play a little clip of before the interview, shows the harsher, more black metal, more kind of thunderous, aggressive style of the album. But it is an album with a lot of dynamics. There's, to my ears, a lot of beauty in here. Really interesting arrangements with an instrumentation, with violin played by Oraklet's wife, in fact. And as well, there is willow flute. I think there's some hand drums being played in there as well. And the flow and the dynamics of the album are really impressive, really engrossing as it goes. And it's not just a case of just like, okay, now it's calming, now it's harsh, and like sort of oscillating back and forth between the two. There are aspects of death metal in here. There's folk. There is heavy metal. There are even parts that sort of, sound a little bit like Iron Maiden in places. But as I say, there's still this black metal terrain that's being explored. Yeah, just in a way that's varied and from my point of view, extremely satisfying. The record sounds fantastic. I think Oraklet has done a fantastic job in mixing and producing the record. Everything sounds full and rich. And I can't really gush about it enough. If you like heavy music, if you have even a passing interest in black metal, but you also kind of like a variety, you like things that sound a bit different, I cannot recommend this highly enough. I think this is a really great album. And I was very, very happy to talk to its author, so to speak. So, yeah, this is Häxkapell's second album. And I believe also the second album, which is being released on Nordvis. And if you would like to get hold of the album, which is coming out this Friday, you can get it directly from Nordvis. I'm not going to bother looking this up just now. I will put links in the description. If you would like to follow what's going on with Häxkapell, then I think the best place to go at the moment is to their Instagram account, again, which I will put a link for in the description. And if you would like to follow me, you can do so at Tom Osman Sounds. You can check out what I'm doing musically at tomosmansounds.com. I recently had a collaboration with a Guria drama come out called Real Silence. You can get links to that on the website. And I'm also working on another project at the moment with information about that on the website. That's me. And now it is time for Oraklet. So Oraklet of Häxkapell, take it away.
Slaktar svärdet som genom norra, en dyster smärta. or Oraklet in Häxkapell.
Thank you, because you've saved me first off in the first of various stumbling blocks, which are my capacity to potentially mispronounce things. So Häxkapell, that's how I should say the name of your musical project. Is that more or less correct?
More or less, Häxkapell.
Häxkapell. And does
Yes.
does it have a meaning or is it a name?
It's both. It's Swedish for chapel of witchery.
Aha. So the latest album that you have for this project, and I'm going to do my best, jordens blod och urgravens grepp.
Yes. I can understand what you're saying, yes.
How, just so you can let everyone hear it, how should it be said?
Jordens blod och urgravens grepp.
Yeah, it sounds much more beautiful when you say it.
Oh,
And
thank you.
and I do have to say, although it's black metal and there are aspects of it which are harsh and intense, I do actually think there is quite a lot of beauty on this album. I think the way that you've incorporated the different classical elements, like the violin and I think it's a willow flute that you play on it. I even thought, I could be making this up, but on track 5, I think it is, I thought maybe I heard harpsichord. Is there harpsichord in there?
Let's see, track 5, that's Vinda från förr. No, I don't think there's any harpsichord. No, I'm I'm not quite sure because there are quite many layers in many songs, and I can't remember quite every keyboard part I played. But maybe no, I don't think there's a harpsichord.
Maybe it was something in the keyboard. It had an aspect to it that made me think of Baroque music. And when I think of Baroque music, I think of harpsichord, whether or not that's actually what the instrument is. Do you, for yourself, do you feel like you are expressing something beautiful in this music?
Yes, for sure. It's Häxkapell is, well, it's I'm quite somewhat of a purist regarding black metal. So for me, Häxkapell is only partly black metal. It's so much more. It encompasses both darkness and light, both death and life, and the lighter and life side of the coin, if you will, is much more beautiful than the black, raw, harsh, satanic side of the coin. So for sure, and the violins are, which my wife plays, they are one of those voices of the light on the album.
And so from that perspective that you say you're a purist when it comes to black metal, do I understand that to mean that you would take all of that light side of the coin of your music to be something that's not black metal?
Yes, for sure. Black metal is the devil's music, purely.
And I think I saw something in the press release talking about archetypes. So I'm wondering, this sort of, the exploration that you're doing in this project, is there a sort of Jungian aspect to this?
I'm not that well versed in Jung, but I read some of Blavatsky's works and the theosophical sides of things. Even though there's some things are maybe not for me. But as in many doctrines and ideologies, there are things that I like, which I incorporate into my own beliefs. And the archetypes, is that how it's pronounced? Archetypes? That idea resonated with me, having the eternal light shining behind everything, and the archetypes being in front of it and casting shadows upon everything else. Which we then interpret, try to emulate, and try to, from those shadows, try to decipher what the light beyond them are. So yeah, that's the idea behind the archetypes.
And I got the impression, or I think I read on your profile on Spotify, that the first album that you had as Häxkapell was interested in exploring the concept of fire. So is there a sort of parallel elemental aspect to the latest album?
Yes, it's earth and soil. And jordens jord is earth or soil, or the earth in Swedish. So jordens blod is about the blood of the earth, och urgravens grepp is and the hard grip or grasp of the eternal grave. So yes, the element is earth this time around, and in earth there is both death and life, which is this all kinds of contrasts and liminal things are interesting for me to explore in Häxkapell. And within the topic of earth, both the slowly changing of the earth, if you think about tectonic plates, or just the soil that is in the woods, and how everything comes back to it in the end, and then grows into something else, is an eternal cycle of life and death, where they are codependent of each other. And that's also depicted in the music, as the album is symmetrically made, so it ends with the same sounds as it begins, and it starts from blackness and goes into death, which brings life, which then turns into death once more through the earth, and the blood that flows through the earth and becomes something else. So that's the element and the theme of the album.
And sort of going back to the first album and maybe thinking about the origins of this project and your sort of the sort of philosophical explorations that you're doing with this, how far back did you have the idea of what you wanted to do with the latest album?
I can't really tell for sure. I think it was somewhere around when I was still recording and mixing the first album that I had an inkling about what the next theme would be. And all of these themes they're not very well thought out beforehand. I feel that they are presented to me, and I am a filter through which those energies, and I try to open myself up and receive, and I'm very curious always to see what comes to me, and but I think it was during the making of the first album when this album's theme came to me.
And on the topic of things coming through you, I think I read that you like to use subconscious writing with your lyrics. So maybe you could tell me a bit about how you use that practice and how you started to get interested in that.
Yeah, it's something that I thought that everyone did, because I've done it since I was like 5 or 6 years old. I essentially just switch off my brain while I'm holding a pen, and then when I switch my brain off again, or it gets switched on, there are words on the paper, and I feel that sometimes I can sort of like have an out of body experience, that I'm watching myself write it, even though I don't feel that like I'm writing it myself. But yeah, it's like sometimes you're staring at something, but you're not seeing what you're looking at. You're just staring through it.
Mm.
And that's kind of what it feels like, but with thoughts instead of with my sight. Through the years, I've practiced this, and I've come across different methods how I can steer it into directions roughly. So nowadays, if I know that now I'm going to write some lyrics for, or write something is going to write them through me, or however it is, to Häxkapell, then I meditate. I clear my mind, and then I focus and meditate on the theme that I want to express or explore, and then I switch off, and then usually the lyrics or writings, they're not always lyrics that can be used straight away. Sometimes they need editing.
Mm.
But mostly the lyrics that come through that kind of exercise are under that theme, at least.
And I would imagine, partly because I've sort of started trying to do something vaguely comparable from a sort of therapeutic point of view, of trying to understand the subconscious and understand different aspects of my personality that I might not so directly acknowledge. When you describe that, and having done that for a long time, I could imagine there might be a therapeutic aspect of that for you too. Is there?
Probably, yes, probably both right there and then, and probably also in the long run, as there are things that need to be expressed, that maybe need to be drawn out in this manner because it's the only way to do it. And also it's such a cathartic moment after something has come out. So in that moment, it's like a relief when it gets out. And I think, like in the long run, it's important to like, what's it called in English? Like ventilate. You open the vent once in a while so it doesn't build up and boil over.
Yeah. And with that writing, to what extent do you find yourself surprised by what comes out?
Sometimes extremely surprised, and sometimes not so much. It's really from the full spectrum. So if I don't meditate on any topic beforehand, then it can be really anything, and then that's probably more therapeutic in the moment, at least. But if I've done my meditation beforehand, then I'm less surprised, but still somewhat. And there are words that I made up that don't exist, which I sometimes understand, sometimes not. And there are definitely many sentences that I don't understand. There are some sentences on this album that is coming out that I don't fully understand. But maybe they'll come later.
Yeah, maybe. And so you mentioned your wife playing on the record. What instruments are you playing on the record, and what's been played by other people?
My wife plays the violin, and she has a spoken word a bit in one track. And then my friend Johan Marklund plays the drums on the whole record, and the rest is done by me.
And you also had Johan playing drums on the previous record, is that right?
Yes, Johan plays on the first one as well, yes.
And was your wife also on the first record?
Yes. Yeah, so the same lineup.
And had you collaborated with them in other projects? Because I know you've had a variety of different projects over the years.
Not with Johan before. He was a new acquaintance for me when we recorded Eldhymner. But my wife, of course, we've been together for more than 20 years, so we know each other quite well, and we've done various different projects, both with our own music and other stuff, classical and folk, and very many different genres.
And I've seen that on the latest record, you are credited as mixing, producing, and mixing. So how much do you enjoy that part of the music making process?
I quite enjoy getting it to sound the way I want it to, but I don't enjoy it taking so much time. It's a quite arduous process, and I feel that when I'm doing it all by myself, since I record every part that isn't the drums and violin myself as well, and thinking about everything, the arranging and producing. Of course, I have the knowledge for every small detail, and I know my vision is quite clear, and I know what I want it to sound like. And also I'm a bit of a control freak. So it feels good to know that I have control, but it takes so much time. So it's and of course, one gets better all the time. For every album I mix, I get better at doing it. But at the same time, my ears also get better, so I hear more things. Oh, this could have been done better. Oh, I could do this on this track, and that creates this problem, etc. So, yeah, audio engineering, it's an art form of itself. So I have massive respect for those who are good at doing that, and I'm just dabbling in it. I'm trying to get it to sound as good as I can with the means that I have.
Do you do audio engineering for other people, or do you do this purely to realize your own creative projects?
Only for me. I've I've helped some friends to do a little bit of mixing, but not that much. Mainly, it's just for me and myself.
When did you first start doing that?
Maybe 15 years ago or something for the first time, but for the first like 5 years or so, it was just playing around and trying. Well, of course, that's important when learning stuff to play with it and try out things, but it wasn't very not very driven. I didn't do it every week or every month even. And now it's a constant process, as I counted right now that I have 8 albums that are in process right now. So it's a constant process right now. So it's during the last 7 to 8 years, it's been more on than off.
And on the topic of having a number of different projects or a number of different recordings that are in process, how many different musical projects do you actually currently have?
It depends on how you count, but there are five projects that are currently, no, 6 that are active in some way, that are making own music. And then I'm doing other stuff as well, but those are the ones that, well, compose their own songs.
And when I was having a look through the different credits, the different projects that you've been involved with, I noticed the project Grave Empire, which seems to be something that's all you. So I'm wondering a couple of things. Is that an active project, and how would you separate that from Häxkapell kind of conceptually?
I hadn't thought about that one for years and years, so no, it's not very active right now. It was just I thought about it sometimes, like, oh yeah, that one. That's a death metal project. So very down-tuned, heavy riffs, and so maybe some kind of a homage to the early '90s death metal from both Europe and the US. But I made one song which it's not very good. Let's put it that way. Not well, composing wise, it's pretty nice, but I never did anything proper with it. So probably anything that would go into Grave Empire will go into some other of my bands.
Yeah.
Probably not Häxkapell, because it's very different. Häxkapell is not. I don't like to put that many restraints on anything. I like being free with all projects, but it's definitely going in another direction. Sure, heavy riffs, of course, but I don't feel like it has the same expression that Grave Empire had.
And do you have other projects where you feel you are sort of the primary songwriter, or the concept is centrally with you, or is everything else more collaborative?
Well, I have a new, it's not metal, but Cielue. That's an acoustic dark folk or something project that I've started in recent years, and that's also just me. And there's only one song out right now. We're finishing the album artwork, and then it's going to come out next year or this year. still trying to get used to that.
Yeah.
But and I feel that Cielue is kind of the brother of Häxkapell. So they are very conjoined. How do you say? Joined at the hip, like Siamese twins of sorts. Where Häxkapell is the metal version and or the metal side, and the Cielue is the more mellower acoustic side. Even though I feel that it's more even darker in its lyrics many times. But then most of the other ones are, all of the other ones are collaborative in some way. Yes.
And going back then, I think if I understand well, well, I don't know if this is the first, but the first bands that you've been involved with that I've seen mentioned are Archon of Sorrow and Death Evocation.
Yeah.
What is the first musical project that you were actually involved with, and how far back does that go? Kind of mid-90s, are we talking here?
Yeah. Yeah. That was me and my friends messing about, but we made lots of. That was the first band, yes. And we were called first Archon of Sorrow and then Death of Occasion, and I think we made one gig where we were called by the fantastic moniker Imperator Vibrator. That's very, very, very big imperator vibrator. Yeah. So, but it's the same people doing the same things, and that's kind of a melodic death metal. Death metal. We played some covers of both death and black metal and thrash metal bands. And this was in our age 14, 15 or something like that. And one of those guys I still play with in one of the bands. I'm in Chaos Sworn. The bassist Andreas was one of the guys in Archon of Sorrow as well. But we never made anything else than rehearsal tapes in his parents' garage.
And what stands out as the music that really inspired you to start making music yourself?
Probably the music of that time. It's those formative years are probably for most people the ones that the bands and artists and songs and albums you listened to when you were in your teens will probably resonate for the rest of your life with you. And for me, the biggest ones were Dissection and everything that was in that ballpark. So Dissection, Satyricon, Emperor, Decameron is one of the best bands ever, but no one knows about them. Kind of in the same vein as Dissection. Limbonic Art, many bands from Sweden and Norway. Arcanum, Sorin, lots of death and black metal at the time. But before that, it was Metallica. That was my first musical idols. When I was like 7 or 8, I discovered And Justice for All. I must have been 8. And then all the other albums. And then the Black Album came, and I still think it's great. The best production of all time is on that album. So Metallica was always number one for me until the mid-90s. They released Load, and I had moved on. Let's just say that.
You were off the train at that particular point.
Yes. Yes.
And how, growing up and having a fascination with all of this music, how receptive was your family to that? And I guess in general, like your friends as well, you know, how much did other people around you share your own musical fascination?
I had some friends that were on the same wavelength, mainly those ones that were in the band with me. I grew up in the small town where I live now as well, Haparanda, in the north of Sweden, and there weren't many metalheads, even though it was probably bigger then than it is now, the metal scene. And quite many of my buddies and my parents were questioning, why are you listening to this kind of music? You can't even hear what they're singing, and all these classic stereotypes. But we loved it, so fuck everyone else. That was kind of the spirit. So, but we had our small group of friends, and also there was the fantastic platform IRC, internet relay chat, which was like do you know it?
No, I've never heard of that before. Tell me more.
It's like you know Discord.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the IRC was kind of like that in the 90s, but no voice chat, no images or links or the stuff that you could, or maybe you could share links. It was purely text-based chat rooms, and through that we could connect with people from other places. Of course, in Sweden, but or Finland, and but also in other countries. And tape trading, of course, was a thing.
I was just about to ask you if it was still a thing at that point.
Yeah, yeah, in the late 90s. We still, some of us try to bring it into the 21st century, but it died out. We switched over to CDRs for a
Yeah.
while, but then the bandwidth grew and the internet became so fast that all these Napster and DC and Kazaa and whatever they were became the way to share files with each other.
Did you get involved with using MySpace somewhere down the line?
Yeah, yeah, that was for a few years the main platform, and we had with my other band Chaos Worn. I remember that we had a MySpace page that we tried to really get good layout for and connections and etc. But yeah, it had its peak and then it just died.
Yeah.
I don't
And
know
how
why.
and how do you feel now about the way that things have developed in terms of the online representation of music? Whether it's, things like Bandcamp where bands are, I would say, getting paid more for what they do, and then you've got the other side of things. You've got like Spotify, which I guess has a promotional value, but for a lot of people doesn't really lead to them making much money. What do you think about the way that things have developed in these different directions?
Well, you could probably guess. I think Bandcamp is a great platform, and like you said, you get more of a percentage when you sell through that platform. So I like Bandcamp. Spotify can fuck off right into oblivion. Fuck Daniel Ek, the capitalist fucker. Uh, they so yeah, no fan of Spotify. I of course understand the value of having it and having a platform where you can easily share to millions and millions of people. I myself use Tidal, even though it sucks as well, but at least it pays more of a percentage in
Yeah.
royalties. But all of these other media outputs like Instagram and Facebook, etc., it's made for instant gratification, and TikTok probably is even worse. I don't want to use it.
That's where I
But
draw the line as well.
yeah, it's not for people. I think it's for it's for mice or something. I don't know. No, there's. I really don't understand why everything has to happen right away. People have no patience, and it's probably because of the smartphone revolution and that
Yep.
generation that has grown up with internet and never without it.
Yep.
That everything is at your fingertips all the time, and the same with music. If they can't listen to it right away, then they lose interest. And it's for us. It's in my generation. It's I still remember having to wait for the release date of the album. I remember like the Metallica Load album. I was there waiting outside of the. I skipped school and went to the record store and waited when they opened the doors and got the record. Rode my bike home and listened to it and was mightily disappointed. I like it today for what it is, but this sensation of having to wait, having to invest your time into
Yeah.
it, but made those records more important and made them maybe closer to you as a person
Yeah.
because you had invested yourself in it. So if you can just click on something and get it, it's well, I don't think you value it as much.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. And from that point of view, do you then feel that like physical representation of music whether it's cassettes or it's a vinyl or it's CD, does that have some kind of inherent value to you independently from music being available online, or not necessarily?
Yes, yes, I think so. We have uh, we have had our best friends over during the New Year's celebrations, and we never listen to Spotify or Tidal. We listen to CDs. So we go to the CD wall and close our eyes and pick out 4 albums, and then, oh, it's this one. Oh, fuck no. This one. Maybe. And then, oh, Throne of Ahas, Niflheim. This one's the one we're going to listen to. And then we look at the album and the booklet and try to read the fine print and everything. It's so much more fun. Of course, when you invest time and money into making a great layout and artwork and design that visually represents the music, it adds another dimension to it. And when you can look at the vinyl cover, you can get much more of a feeling from that than by this small square down to the left in your Spotify screen.
Yeah.
So yes, I think that physical format, both by visually representing something and for the consumption means that you get with the physical records, they hold value, yes.
And do you think that that multi-dimensional value can be kept alive for people that have grown up purely in the digital era?
It's hard to tell, but there are younger ones that get like hyped up about the vinyl and cassette retro thing. And I don't know if that's just a fad that dies out in a couple of years, or if it's something that continues to bloom. I don't really know. I've tried to get my kids to get interested in those. So my son, he likes to play Metallica CDs on his stereo in his room. So we've got two kids upcoming who really enjoy the physical format at least. So maybe that's our responsibility to try to keep it alive.
And how old are your kids?
9 and 5, 6 in a couple of weeks.
So with you being a father that grew up listening to metal and getting into black metal and a lot of music that people might have considered to be extreme, what capacity is there for your children to rebel?
Quite a lot. They can listen to Justin Bieber and I'll be upset, I think, or Ed Sheeran or something. No, Ed Sheeran's not that bad, actually. Of course, there are other ways than music to rebel. But I don't know. They will find a way, I'm sure. And it feels like there's always the next step in extreme music, even though it feels like maybe industrial noise has taken it quite far, and it's maybe hard to top that. But someone will probably come up with something. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's something else than music that'll come.
Yeah. And like thinking about this side of this modern world where we do have so many electronic devices around us and there's so much technology, do you feel from a creative point of view that you do need to consciously separate yourself from these things, or maybe even not just creatively, but kind of spiritually or mentally?
Yeah, I do feel that sometimes technology is great. I love technology because you get so many things are so easy today compared to just 1 decade ago. But like making a record now compared to 30 years ago, it's like you can do it yourself. Of course, you need some equipment and some knowledge, but you couldn't do it by yourself in the 90s. You needed to go to the studio, etc. So all of these possibilities are great. Then, of course, it's coming back to this instant gratification thing. Sometimes I feel that I need to ground myself. And I have a cabin, or we have a cabin in northeastern Finland, where I take some trips there every now and then just to clear my mind, and write music. That's where I written this Sielue, which is the acoustic project. That's where I wrote those songs on 2 different trips, and I've done some other things there as well. And that's a good way to get away from internet. And well, of course, there's 4G, so you can still have you can still look at social media on your phone, but we're trying to keep it to a minimum. And sometimes different tools bring different results. So if I'm sitting with a computer, I'm getting something different compared to sitting by a piano or sitting with a guitar in the woods or by a lake. That's something else entirely. Or if I'm writing lyrics on the computer, that's really, that doesn't work that well for me. I really like to do it with pen and paper. It's much more tactile, and I feel what I'm writing in another way compared to a keyboard, even though it's slower.
Yep.
But there's something also in the handwriting that brings your own spirit to it, and you get not just the words, you get the phrasing, and you get accents into the words by your writing. And these are small details, but I've noticed that if I see it written in my hand, compared to if I've written it myself, but it's on the computer screen, I'm going to sing it very differently. So it's definitely a thing. And going away to our cabin or to my best friend in the woods in Sweden, he has a studio there. So you get another kind of inspiration when you're not in an urban environment with cars blazing by and people walking past and talking on their phones in the street, compared to you just hearing the wind and maybe a squirrel running on the roof or something. That's quite something else.
And where you live in Haparanda, that's right on the border with Finland, isn't it?
Yes.
And also on the coast as well. How much of a impact do you think that particular environment has had on what you do creatively?
The closeness to Finland, probably not as much. I am a Finn. That is my native language, even though I write everything in Häxkapell in Swedish. I'm born in Sweden and lived all my life in Sweden, but my parents are Finnish. But this closeness to Finland, probably more on a personal plane. It's quite nice to have the closeness to my homeland, even though I've never lived there. But the coast, I don't know much about that, but the northern environment per se, and the very short days in the winter, the cold, and not living in like Stockholm or something that is a big city with millions of people. I get stressed out when I go there. Well, it's nice. There's so many things to do, but I get stressed by the hectic tempo that everyone has. So up here, we do things perhaps more slowly, but also more deliberately. And I don't know if that's just my perception, but I feel that we go more in depth with things and don't really care that much about how it looks. Well, it feels like the nature, having lived all my life in this region, all of these, like the seasons, they are really different from each other. Like in Stockholm, it's like the autumn and the winter are quite the same. There's not that much snow, but we have like meters of snow, and with -15 today, so it's not that cold, but we get like really cold at times. And in the summer, the sun never sets during the midsummer weeks. And all of these phenomena with light and temperature and snow, sun, those I think those can be heard in the music. I'm sure that there's lots of stuff that is like subconsciously there because of that. And I've been asked this question many times, and I really don't know how to concretely quantify that, because it's I don't know about anything else. This is how it's always been, so it's difficult to tell how it would have been if I would have lived in, I don't know. Where are you right now? UK?
Right now I'm in Glasgow in Scotland.
Yeah. So Glasgow, that would have been, if I would have been from there, I'm sure that it would have been heard in my music in some way.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to tell or pinpoint what exact. So probably the music that I've heard is like nursery rhymes and children's music and folk music, traditional songs from this area, and it is more Finnish than Swedish for me because of my parents, even though they resemble each other quite a lot, Swedish and Finnish folk music and traditional music. But I'm sure that can be heard in my music, and I know it does, because there's lots of folk melodies in Häxkapell and my other projects.
And the language, from what I understand, is completely different. So how kind of overlapping do you find the mythology and the folk tales?
There's some overlap, but not very much. But there, of course, most of the folklore from around the world have things in common with each other, which is a big topic and interesting one.
Definitely.
But in this region, of course, both Sweden and Finland are very well. Every part of the world has been nature oriented in their folklore, I'm sure. But as we have lots of woods and lakes, and the winters and the summers being so contrastful with each other, they play a big part in the folklore. But the languages definitely are from different strains or strings, however you say it in English. So they don't resemble each other at all. There are some words that have been borrowed from each other, and also, of course, from other languages that are common. But I feel like the mindset is between the peoples is similar, but not the same. It's Finland and the northern part of Sweden are more close to each other than the northern part of Sweden and the southern part of Sweden. And I don't know exactly where the line gets drawn, but I feel that Finns are a little bit more, maybe more reserved, more stubborn, and more honest.
And do you still, I mean, do you speak Finnish regularly?
Yeah. With my kids, only Finnish.
Okay, but I presume that your kids are also growing up learning Swedish as well.
Yeah. Yes.
And also English?
In school, yeah, and of course from TV and YouTube and video games and stuff like that. Yeah, so I speak Finnish with them, and my wife speaks Swedish with them. And then they of course learn English from various sources.
And do you speak Finnish to your wife and she answers in Swedish, or you speak to each other in the same language?
Mostly Swedish between us. Yeah, but since we moved here, which was in 2006, so it's almost 20 years now, she's been learning Finnish, and it's going slowly but well in the right direction. So she's not fluent yet, but she understands most of the things that I'm saying to my kids, at least. Yeah, but it's an interesting way of communicating. But I think that our kids will be glad that they learned both languages from the start. So they're bilingual from the get-go, because we read lots of articles and studies on this when she was pregnant with our first, just to know that, is it confusing to them if the parents speak different languages? No, it's not. It's just good for them to get to hear and know different languages at an early state and early age. Now they are soon trilingual.
Yeah. No, I think it's a wonderful quality to have. I do regret that when I was a kid, I didn't really appreciate the value of learning other languages, and not to use it as an excuse, but I think as a native English speaker, a lot of the time you can be surrounded by the perception that, oh, you don't need to learn other languages because everyone will speak English, which I think is a terrible perception to have. But I think probably a lot of English speakers do sort of go around with that opinion. So it was only more recently that I actually learned like kind of a basic level of German, and I was living in Germany for a while. And even just on that kind of basic level, to be able to communicate and have some level of conversation in a different language was such a beautiful experience. So I'm sure, to be able to speak actually at a fluent or semi-fluent level in different languages must be amazing. I don't think I'll ever get there, but even just to have some sort of capacity to speak in a different language, I think is great.
It's never too late. I'm glad to hear that you've done some progress with another language. That is very understandable with English, of course, because you can get by with English almost anywhere.
Yep.
Even in France, in some some cities.
Yes, despite their reputation for being pretty hardline. Do you find, creatively, so you've mentioned the fact that in Häxkapell you're writing in Swedish. Are you writing in Finnish with other projects?
Yes, Sielue is only in Finnish.
And so just from the language point of view, do you notice something quantifiably different between what comes out of you when it's Finnish as opposed to Swedish?
I don't know. I don't think that thematically that there's a difference. It's Finnish being my native tongue. I feel like I'm freer with doing what I want with the language. That I can bend words how I like, and no, I don't think lyrically when I'm writing the lyrics. I think there's a bigger difference when I'm singing, because for the same reason, when I'm singing Finnish, I don't think about the pronunciation at all. But when I sing in Swedish, there's like a 0.1% thing about, oh, should it be this kind of a vowel sound or this one?
Yeah.
Which is irritating when I spot myself doing that, because that means that I'm not 100% just channeling the energy and the feelings that need to be conveyed.
Yeah.
But when I sing Finnish, I just go for it, and it probably sounds better when I'm singing in Finnish than Swedish, at least for my ears.
Yeah. Do you also do kind of automatic or subconscious writing in Finnish as well?
Yes. Yes, that's what I started with when I was a kid.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I've done it in both Finnish and Swedish and English, and it works well on all, best in Finnish and Swedish, of course.
And so thinking about the release of the album, so with this being kind of a solo project, like a solo project with collaborators, do you actually perform this music live?
I would like to. I haven't done yet, but I try to put together a lineup and find time and a rehearsal space. But the logistics, I didn't think that it would be this difficult, and that's where my geographical location comes into play, because Haparanda is so remote, and Johan lives in Skellefteå, which is it's not that far. It's 3 hours from here, but it's still far enough to not just kind of, I can't phone him and hey, can we jam this evening?
Yeah.
And then I need to find some other members as well. And I would like to have my wife playing the violin, but what about the kids? So there are lots of small details here and there which, when you sum them up, make it more difficult than I thought it would be to get it all together. But yes, I would like to play live, so it's not by choice that I haven't yet done it.
Yeah. And thinking about playing live in general amongst your various different projects, how often do you perform?
Everything is relative, of course, but most of my gigs that I do right now are with the classical choir that I sing in.
Mm-hmm.
The Erik Westberg vocal ensemble. We sing like contemporary, modern classical music a cappella for the most part, where I sing second bass, the lowest rumblings, and that's quite fun. It's a semi-professional choir, so we do gigs in both the area but also tours internationally. So those are the most gigs that I do right now, and also related to my work with the students. So I'm the head of a music department and a teacher at folkhögskola. What's that in? Like an academy, community college, something like that. So there's concerts with that, but metal concerts haven't done that many in a while now. I helped a friend out and played with Leak in 2019. Was it? It's like 5 or 6 years ago. Damn, time flies. But not that many metal gigs. More classical right now.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That a contemporary classical a cappella vocal group. I'm very fascinated. Do you have recordings?
Yeah, there's lots. I don't know how many, maybe 20 albums or something out on various musical platforms, which we've spoken about earlier. I don't see the Erik Westberg vocal ensemble. And there's one album that came out in December, another one coming out in February. So there's lots of recordings also being done. And most of it is contemporary. Many of the music is written for our ensemble specifically.
Oh, nice.
So we Erik, the conductor, he's constantly in contact with many composers, both from Sweden and abroad, who are writing music and trying to find some choirs to sing.
Ah, that's great. Yeah, like I grew up with my parents playing classical music around the house all the time, so I've sort of absorbed it, even if I really don't feel like I'm knowledgeable enough to really talk about it so much. But I like that. Yeah, there's definitely something about. I mean, obviously, classical music is such a broad spectrum of different eras and styles, but if I can be so general, I can say I feel very positively about classical music, even if there's a lot of it that doesn't particularly resonate with me.
Yeah, well, it's the same with any genre.
Yeah.
There are good things, there are bad things in all genres, even the one Justin Bieber belongs to.
Yes, that's a very reasonable way of putting it. And so then thinking about the release of the album on remember, it's Nordvis production, right? And
Yes.
you've released other music with them too. So I think I've forgotten actually what formats the album is going to be out on, but what's it coming out on, and where can people get the album from?
This album is coming out on CD and vinyl, and of course, digitally. The same with the first album, Eldhymner. It's probably available somewhere on vinyl. I think it's sold out at Nordvis, but yeah, you can get that from different distributors, I guess, if you like vinyl. Yeah, and it's I can just say about Nordvis that it's been such a pleasure working with Andreas, who runs Nordvis. That he's a great artist himself, and he understands the music part of and the art making of the process. So it's easy to collaborate with him with everything, and very inspiring. So I feel like I'm not going anywhere anytime. it's Nordvis is the place to be with Häxkapell and Cielo and all of my other projects that are that fit into the under the umbrella of Nordvis.
Yeah, that's good. It's good to have a home that you feel comfortable in creatively.
Yeah, of course.
And so we have touched on social media and the not necessarily positive aspects of it, but I guess in terms of people keeping track of what you're doing, whether it is releases or if there are potentially going to be live shows in the future, and maybe with your other project as well, do you have sort of one place on some social media platform or websites that you're very active with, or more active than others?
Well, I have pages or handles or whatever it's called on both Instagram and Facebook, even though the Facebook one got banned because of some hacker. So right now there's no Facebook page for Häxkapell, which is kind of an interesting timing-wise since the album is coming out soon. So Instagram is better, and I need to make some kind of an old-fashioned website because that's not being run by Meta, who can also fuck off.
Yeah.
Their customer service is the worst ever. Oh, there is no customer service. Anyway, so Instagram or just Google Häxkapell maybe, or Nordvis. Those are the ways to get hold of information.
Nice. Yes, I kind of feel like there's a necessary evil with some of these things like Spotify and Instagram, but at the same time, I don't want to just, give myself up to them completely and say it always has to be this way.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. It feels like the CD's been around since before the internet, and the vinyl's been around before the CD and still around. So maybe they'll outlive this social media shitstorm as well.
Indeed. And the cabins and the pen and the paper have been around for even longer than all of that.
Yes, very well put.
Well, it was great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. And
You as well.
yeah, I'm a big fan of the album, and I hope it gets a really great reception when it comes out.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to talk to you as well.
Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you. You soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.